Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us as we evolve together. In this series, we're showcasing business leaders and their approach to workforce innovation. And I'm excited today to welcome Jamie to the show. Jamie, can you please introduce yourself and your company?
Sure. I'm Jamie White. I'm the president of LLI Engineering. LLI has been around since 1910, so we actually have a long history in Pittsburgh. Would you like me to put the dog in another room?
I think we should all meet the dog, to be honest with you. We have not had a dog on the show yet.
Okay,
Oh
here
my
he is.
gosh, there he is. Okay,
There's
so
Sonny.
here's the actual star of the show,
Yes.
and I have one at home, a white one named Ghost. So we kind of were talking earlier that maybe we should have the dogs talking instead of us. Do you mind introducing yourself and your company and kind of telling us about a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm Jamie White. I'm the president and CEO of LLI Engineering. LLI has been around since 1910. We specialize in high-tech projects. Verizon, Westinghouse, United States Postal Service, People's Gas. Do a lot of data center work, Expedient, Iron Mountain, those type of clients. We were the first engineering firm to use rebar in the Pittsburgh area, which back in the early 1900s. The other large building we did around here in the 1950s, we designed the AT&T building, which is right next to USX Tower. An interesting thing about that building is it can withstand an electromagnetic pulse from a nuclear explosion. And basically, it has shutters that come down and totally seal off the building. I don't know if they're still operable, but again, that's something that we designed in the 1950s when that was constructed in the early 1960s. So
I was in that building for almost 10 years and I never knew that. And I wonder if they've ever tested them or can they be tested?
Yeah, they were tested up into the 1980s. I know that. And again, if you've seen the I-beam looks on the outside, there's actually stainless steel shutters which come down. And again, if you look up now, you'll notice there's a gap where those are. And about every floor, 2 floors, the shutters can be pulled out. So
That's
and again,
incredible.
yeah. So, but again, that's kind of our specialty. We get called a lot of times by people that are building strange and unusual things. So we have a really diverse group and talented group of engineers. We do architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection engineering.
That's amazing. And what, the pandemic has affected companies in many different ways. From an engineering company's perspective, how has it affected you?
We've been very fortunate, again, with the high-tech clients that they've been moving forward very quickly. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we're actually quite busy. But the other part of it is our clients' fiscal years have been mixed up because they're in the same boat where things have been accelerated, other things have been slowed down. So we have had a rhythm over the years that the post office, their fiscal year ends at the end of October. So from November, December, it's slow with the post office. Verizon, theirs ends at the end of December. And, we've had a nice steady project cycle because of that. The pandemic has definitely mixed that up. We've had projects that have gone on hold, other projects that have been accelerated. So again, the problem is that sometimes we don't have enough staff. Other times we have way too much staff. So, and again, that's where that PPP loan has been super important. It's been able to help us bridge those times and also work with sub-consultants and stuff to accelerate when we need to get the jobs out.
Have you had to adapt or pivot at all since the pandemic? I mean, was there any changes that made you change, from what you've seen?
We were shutting things down. Fortunately, at LI, we were in a process prior to that of allowing people to work remote. We had the software implemented. We actually spent the last 3 years purging a lot of our paper documents, making sure everything was online. So again, we were, due to dumb luck, fortunate in that way. And I think the pandemic accelerated that. It forced you to do that. And of course, we hurried up and did it. The other thing that was kind of unique for us is my daughter-in-law is an epidemiologist. So, and she was working for the federal government as a consultant for that. So, you know, like everybody else, I saw the news at the time, and I just couldn't imagine the United States shutting down like this. And then again, she was telling me, "Hey, next week they're going to totally shut things down." And so we did have an opportunity to prepare, I think, a little bit better than some of the other architectural engineering firms.
You know what? I think you have, at least the conversations we've had during this time. You know, you've been remote. You seem to be functioning really well. Do you think, I mean, what does back to work look like? Do you think you'll go back to the way you were prior to the pandemic, or do you think you're changed going forward?
I think we are changed going forward. Matter of fact, your article about a year ago about changing the offices and what are we doing with that, we took that very seriously. And again, there was kind of a slowdown on both the architectural engineering and our construction group. So we came in and we renovated our office, redid the break rooms, spaced some things out, made it more safe for a pandemic, and even post-pandemic, you know, make it a more healthy environment. So.
Do you think you'll have flex hours or flex days, or do you think that everybody's going to kind of be back full time? And what are your thoughts with proceeding?
We are going to have flex hours and flex time. And again, we've really been operating that way before. Even 3-4 years ago, I have employees that used to come to the office at 4 a.m. and leave at 12:30. So, wow. And they did that just because, you know, they wanted to beat traffic. They wanted to be home at a certain time. And so we've offered that for quite some time, and we're going to continue to do that. And as you and I talked, I'm planning on working remote for 2-3 weeks at a time, post-pandemic, because of all these tools that I think everybody's gotten good at. So it's definitely something that's going to continue. And yeah.
That's awesome. So, you know, I'd love to ask you if you have any advice for other business leaders as they kind of try to figure out what to do themselves, what's next.
What I've been doing is talking to other business leaders. I deliberately call my friends in the industry that are owners of engineering and architectural firms, as well as the construction companies, as well as people like yourself that are on the leasing side, and the developers to find out their best practices, what has worked, what has not worked. Received a lot of great ideas from that. Good friend of mine, every morning at 8 a.m., he has the entire staff on. They have to have their video on for a Zoom call at 8 a.m. to make sure everybody's, you know,
out of bed.
Yeah, and again, I thought
that for my kids, Jamie. That's not a bad idea.
Exactly, and again, he even said, hey, you know, I don't care if you have, you know, what you're wearing, you know, you can fuzz your screen. I just want to make sure you're physically there and active and talking. And then they break up in their groups. And again, I thought that was a great idea. Fortunately, with our firm, you know, most of them are professionals or registered architects or registered engineers. They're, you know, postgraduate and graduate, you know, educated folks. So in all honesty, we've not done that. So they're accountable for getting their work done. And as long as they're meeting the budgets or meeting the schedules and they're putting out good work, we can be flexible. But what has happened is we've found a few employees that are not capable of doing that remote. We've had a candid conversation with them, and we've resolved it. Let's put it that way. So.
Yeah. And what would you suggest to somebody if it's not like, have you learned from something that's occurred? Like, would you make any suggestions to another business leader if they're struggling with, you know, how to move forward? I mean, they're still stuck in their homes. Yeah. You know, they're having the same issues it sounds like you've had, a lot of companies. What is your specific advice?
My advice is to not hesitate. I think the people that have lost out in this pandemic are the ones that have studied things to death. Quite frankly, we don't have time to study it to death. Get the information that you know, get the information that you have, make the best decision that you have based on that. And then the other really kind of the great thing about this pandemic is everybody has a reset. So, you know, I always wanted certain things to happen here at LLI to push forward. This has allowed us to, you know, kind of start from scratch. So again, we were able to just totally redo how we're doing the office. We were able to make people work remote and help them work remote and get them the tools to do so. We've upgraded our accounting systems. We're looking at changing how we do our CAD and Revit and that sort of stuff and interacting. So again, this has forced you to do it. And if you sit back and wait and wonder, quite frankly, I think you're going to be out of business in a year or so. But if you go ahead and make the best decision, move forward decisively, I think you'll be great. And, just trust your instincts to make good decisions. That's how you got to that position that you are. So that would be my recommendation. And the other thing is, if you have some great ideas for me, let me know when you want to go have a beer. Give me a call. I'd like to hear your ideas as well.
I love it. Well, our goal with Evolve is really to help leaders to learn, connect, and grow together. And thank you for taking your time. It's
thank you.
Truly a pleasure, as always, to talk with you. And I look forward to future conversations.
Likewise. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Jamie. Bye-bye.